Aaron.
Yeah.
Why didn't you say it the first time I said Aaron?
Because it's pronounced Aaron?
You done messed up, Aaron!
Aaron is here, everyone, joined by the one and only Serge Del Mar. How's it going?
What's up? What's up, everyone? Good. How are you?
Serge Del Mar to the stage.
Front and center.
My goodness. You know who done messed up? A whole lot of people, including Julian Swartz. Julian Swartz done messed up. Where did Julian Swartz go wrong? Let's be honest. It's when he was born into Scientology. That's where his life took a drastic turn for the worse. In some cases, Julian is one of the abused who has become one of the abusers, one of the primary abusers. You and I have both known Julian since we were kids. Who would have guessed that the senior CS page, what was his post-it flag? Senior CS assistant, senior CS page.
Now, ready for this?
What?
Senior CS MAA.
What the hell is that? What does the senior CS MAA do?
Runs ethics programs that are coming out of the senior CS case supervisor's office.
Ethics programs like Elledge programs and stuff, or?
Well, I mean, it was really just like, again, you know, some sort of assistant work, right? He just literally was under the thumb of Richard Reese, which a lot of people don't know who in the hell Richard Reese is. But Richard Reese was instrumental in getting the IRS exemption for Scientology, given that he did go to Harvard and he was in the class of Bill Clinton. And when they were looking to get their stuff approved, Richard Reese wrote a letter to Bill Clinton. And I remember because I went to Richard Reese's office and he was like, "Oh, Serge, let me show you the letter I wrote to Bill Clinton so we could get our religious approval."
Wasn't Richard Reese a Rhodes Scholar? I think
he went to Harvard. I mean, I know he went
Wow.
to school with Bill Clinton, literally.
Okay, guys, before we get too far into this, because we're going to jump in pretty fast. If you're not subscribed to Serge on YouTube, you can find him at Serge Del Mar. And we are speaking about this fella over here, Julian Swartz. This photo was published on a Substack article co-written by Yashar Ali and Leah Remini. I have links to Yashar and Leah's Substacks down below, as well as a link to Serge's YouTube channel down below in the description. So Julian Swartz, who would have thought that Julian Swartz, the senior CSMAA, the teenage senior CSMAA from Flag, would become the biggest enabler and cover-upper of crimes against children, Scientologist on Scientologist crime. I don't know. I don't know whether to feel sorry for him or hope he gets strung up at the gallows or something. What are your thoughts on Julian?
Well, that two things can be true at once. Julian can be a full-blown groomed victim that has not a shred of a clue what in the hell he's doing, given that he did get molded to do what he was doing because Debbie Cook, who posted him there, along with Diane Rhodes, which Diane Rhodes is another one of these cadets that was made the senior CS programs ops chief CMO under Angie Blankenship. She was a 13-year-old girl that got Julian out of the cadet org and posted. He first started as a page. So you were right about calling him page because he first started bringing folders back and forth in the HCCs at the Fort Harrison. But then he got promoted to become this senior CS, MAA.
Right.
So does he know what in the hell he's doing? He's never seen outside of the walls of those hotels. No one has ever told Julian Swartz, no, what you're doing is illegal. What you're doing is unthinkable. Whatever in the hell you're doing is literally needs to be stopped. But no one has ever uttered those words to him inside those hotels.
Yeah. You mentioned Diane Rhodes. Matt Pesh has been talking to some people at the Flagland base who are leaking info. I heard just last night that her father, Dusty, has finally passed away. I wondered what happened with Dusty. Diane Rhodes, man, she's someone who's born and raised in the Sea Org, has never known life outside of the Sea Org. I said in one of my recent videos that she'd never gotten married. I was contacted by someone from Flag who said no, she did get married to actually this Scottish Sea Org member who I have a photo of. But Julian, do you know, has Julian ever been married? I saw a photo of him. I think he's wearing a wedding ring, but I have no idea who Julian Swartz is married to. You don't know, do you?
Not that I know of. I mean, I never knew of anyone he was married to. No.
Yeah. So why do you think Miscavige trusts Julian to be, it's weird, right? Like I try to make some of this make sense in my head. And in some ways it makes sense to have one person who's the most trusted person handle all the dirt, all the cover-ups, all the everything. So you keep information as contained as possible. On the other hand, it's so dangerous to have one person who knows where all the bodies are buried. And I don't know how Julian got to be someone that was so trusted that he's the person who covers up all instances of child abuse in Scientology, all instances of the most horrific crimes. Julian is the one they use to cover it up. How do you think he got himself into that position? How did that happen?
Well, number one, he was groomed from the get-go, starting at Flag, right? The top mecca of how to do all of the things that they are doing. So he had a long apprenticeship that he did under Richard Reese to normalize the laundering of felonies, the systemic laundering of Class A felonies. That is all that the technology of L. Ron Hubbard literally normalized for all of these people. And I wouldn't know, or I wouldn't say that he's the only one that knows or the only one that's trusted, Aaron. That's the one that's public facing, right? That's the one that the public know. But he has very specific handlers, such as the RTC reps at PAC, who literally run him. I mean, that's literally what they call, who's running you? Oh, I'm running for Mr. Basadi or Mr. Rathbun, and Rathbun, who was DIG PAC for years or whatever. So, COB is here, right at the very top of this pyramid scheme.
You got a little, you busted out a diagram. Go ahead.
But then, right beneath this pyramid is all the CMO people that find out every last shred of dirt anywhere. And these are the internal finder outers, right? Because the OSA people are external, and anyone who speaks to any shred of person outside publicly, they want to put this like plausible deniability. I mean, I think Mike Rinders talked about how he was kept out of the loop on purpose so he wouldn't be caught lying about anything. So the OSA people and the CMO people are coordinating, and they're the brains behind Julian. Julian is just a tool that they use as an enforcer.
Yeah. And I want to show his photo here again, because for sure Julian's not the only person who, Julian is run directly by RTC. When the last I knew, and for those watching, RTC is the organization that David Miscavige is the head of. It is through his control of RTC that he has control of Scientology. And Miscavige has personal RTC representatives who represent him at every Sea Org advanced org in the world. Every Scientology organization that delivers the upper OT levels has multiple representatives of RTC in that organization. And at the advanced organization of Los Angeles, the last I knew, the RTC reps were Leslie Tyrer and Marta Coelho. And Mr. Tyrer, women are called Mr. even in the Sea Org, even if they're officers. Right. Mr. Tyrer was the lead RTC rep, and Mr. Coelho was the deputy RTC rep for tech. And Julian, as you said, was run directly by RTC, not even CMO, but RTC, because their offices were like 100 feet from his office. There's no reason to use the messengers.
Right.
And I'm just mentioning this here for the record because, you know, Scientology likes to do this big song and dance of RTC has nothing to do with the day-to-day management of Scientology. We protect the quality of the technology and the trademarks. And it's like RTC micromanages every aspect of Scientology, including the covering up of these crimes. And anything that Julian has covered up has been at the direction of RTC. You and I know this for a fact. I mean, the Scientology can fool the courts about these things, but anyone who's been in the Sea Org knows that this is true.
Well, and Aaron, I would like to add to what you just said, and I explained this in one of my videos. Just a simple, what I say, a simple GTS away. Google that shit away. You go to RTC's website, and you can see right there that they are literally soliciting felonies. On their literal website, it says, if somebody committed a felony, write it down here, write up a report, and send it to us.
Do you want me to pull it up?
Literally on RTC's website, it says, we really want to know if you have a felony that you have committed.
Where
And
does it say this?
please tell us. Oh, yeah, it does. It literally does. Matters of RTC concern, and then go to ethics. It's kind of confusing, but you have to go to there, and then you have to go right underneath RTC. It says ethics.
Oh,
You
matters
where it
of
says ethics underneath the symbol. Underneath the symbol, like it's very small.
I did it right.
Yeah, right there. That's a link actually. The ethics thing. It's clickable.
But I clicked it right.
You clicked it. Okay, you clicked it already. Okay. So yeah, if you actually just scroll through it, there's a specific section where it talks, you know, everything that's on the ethics book. I mean, it's not anything new, right? Everything we've been saying, like,
oh, any felony 23, any felony against person or property threatened or accomplished is to be immediately reported to RTC. It sure as hell does. Why is that clickable? Why is that clickable? Wow.
So,
and look, even someone forbidding or advising someone not to send such reports to RTC are guilty of a crime.
So, including but not limited to any lawyer that you might consult with. If the lawyer starts telling you not to tell them anything, they will start intervening with that process as well.
Yeah. Wow. And so RTC is literally saying, matters of RTC concern, we are concerned with any felony against person or property. Wow. Very cool.
It's literally all over the public record, you guys. I mean, the problem is nobody connects any MF dot that's already in the literal public record. And in that website, it literally has a section where you type up your report about what in the hell you want to report. Never mind that they also have these boxes where you can do it handwritten, but you know, they wanted to really come across very technological. So they did take it upon themselves to put up this website, which has been up for decades. I mean, this website was there when I was there. That's how I know, because people would report things through the internets, you know, name, last name, street address, city. And then this is really, really effing weird, Aaron. Date of birth. What in the literal hell would they need to know your date of birth to make a report about a felony?
Yeah.
You know, and then I think.
Oh, let's look at all the different types of reports. Oh, you can't see that on the screen share for some reason. That sucks. It says knowledge report, alter is report, error report, misdemeanor report, crime report, high crime report, technical alter is report, technical non-compliance report, and the things that shouldn't be report. Well, there you go.
So crime reports, they really want to know any criminal act, never mind that, including but not limited to Julian Swartz. All it took for Julian Swartz to arbitrate on self-admissions to Class A felonies was completing a 2-week course in a hotel called Ethics Specialist. And just like that, Julian did not have to go to law school. Julian did not have to give an F about what type of legal advice he was dishing out to people when these felonies are admitted to in full, recorded, transcribed. So really getting to the point that there is not a shred of plausible deniability, you guys. And when the law actually looks at whether something is criminal or not, a lot of the times they have to really think like, well, was this premeditated? Was this full knowing? Did people really know this was going on? Or was this just some, a casual mistake or an error in judgment? So with what face can these people really say that they had not a shred of a clue when they were data mining the information, monetizing on the information that was data mined, like Danny Masterson was made to do? Hey, Danny, send us 50K. So we really do your sec check. So we really ask you these tailor-made questions about what the Jane Does came and told us was being done.
Can I tell you something? I've never told this anecdote. Because Jane Doe 1 told me this. Jane Doe 1 in the Masterson case. Because remember, there was a period where she was trying to get Scientology justice. And OSA International, Kirsten Katana or Kirsten Peterson was actually trying to help her. She was actually on Jane Doe 1's side on this. She was trying to get Danny to confront that what he did really was rape. And after the meeting, they had this summit where, Danny said, if I just heard it directly from Jane Doe 1's mouth, how much it hurt her, it might bring it home to me. And they had this meeting and he just used it as an opportunity to make jokes and, laugh in her face and stuff. And afterwards, Jane Doe 1 was very upset. And Kirsten tried to console her by saying, don't worry, he's my bitch now. He's like, he has to do anything I ask him to do now. I said, those words came out of Kirsten's mouth. Danny's my bitch now. And she said, absolutely. Because I'm telling this anecdote because you reminded me by talking about the monetization of it. What Kirsten meant is that anytime some big new campaign was launched that funds needed to be raised for, all Kirsten had to do was call Danny and be like, you know what time it is. Write a check. That's what she meant when she said, he's my bitch now. He has to give money whenever I call him now because he knows we've got the goods on him. So you want to talk about monetizing crimes? That is absolutely what they do.
Well, and also, but monetizing crimes on the self-incriminating information they already have, right? Because again, Danny was sold an intensive or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5. That's what it would be. If this would have come up, they would have gone, oh my God, look at this reports. We really have all this information about you right here. So we really need to come see, you need to come see us. We're going to do an ethics interview for free. Mind you, the ethics interview at first is all free. You don't have to pay for those hours, but metered ethics interviews were done where he would have sat there and he would have been literally hammered, and tongues is how this interviews were told to be conducted. It's to be done hammer and tongues with no belief in anyone.
That's tongues, right? Not tongues.
Well, my Spanish, my Spanish and my English and my other languages mixed up. But yeah, hammer and tongues.
Hammer and tongues is a totally different thing. Okay, so
I don't know what the other one means, but I know what the one Scientology said it was.
Well, I was making a joke. There's tongues and there's tongues, multiple tongues.
Okay, well, this auditing was to be conducted in such manner, okay? And you were supposed to believe nobody but the e-meter. So if the e-meter said to Danny, are you withholding anything? Have you committed any crime for which you have not been arrested? One of the common boilerplate ethics questions that were asked of these people, he wouldn't have been allowed to leave the room until he admitted it. Because if he left that room and the person allowed him to leave the room, then the person that was interrogating him would have literally taken a bullet to their brain for having missed a withhold. So that's why this whole narrative, Aaron, about how nobody had a shred of a clue what these Jane Does are talking about could not be more fake, could not be more false. And to put it in their terms, they're all mutual out rudes. y'all that are under the radar, y'all that are watching these videos, go check how mutual out rudes y'all can really be on the subject of what was done to those Jane Does, because maybe that's the blindness that is stopping you from seeing what in the hell Danny did, since it wasn't a secret that Danny had done this, Aaron. I knew it when I was there. Like, literally, people would tell everyone, oh, did you hear about this autori? Did you hear about why Danny's not on lines anymore? I mean, Jonathan Tam told me his uncle from OSA that worked in Oregon at a class 5 org had the data files of OSA, and when he saw that Jonathan Tam was hanging out with Danny Masterson doing poker games, he's like, oh, well, watch out with Danny, because he's not going on the bridge because of the what in the hell we know he got convicted for.
Yeah. Real quick, I want to give a shout out to the website where a lot of these photos of Julian have been able to be located. I'm not going to say these 3 words out loud because YouTube always penalizes me when I do, but let's just call it AGP. And I've put a link to this website in the description down below. One of the things that Pope has done is he attends a lot of Scientology events almost as a protest, and he takes tons and tons of photos, and he has just tons of photos of the security personnel who guard and protect David Miscavige and the venue at Scientology's events. And that's not where this DMV photo came from, but that's where some other photos that are now circulating about Julian came from. So just wanted to give him a little bit of a shout out there.
Well, and just to talk about like hammer and tongues that we were talking about, is an idiomatic expression that means to do something with great energy, force, and intensity. When someone is going at something, hammer and tongues, they are doing it with all their might and enthusiasm, often without holding back. So that's how those interrogations, including but not limited to children, including but not limited to Julian Swartz, was told to conduct all of his interrogations with this amount of energy, force, and intensity.
Now, Serge, you're Spanish, so say it with me. Tongs. Okay, good.
Aaron, I want to see you hear Spanish before you critique a shred of what I say.
Yo hablo español.
Sí, cómo no.
¿Qué onda, güey? ¿Qué onda?
Suenas como un gringo.
Ay, no mames. No mames.
That's how you sound, like a gringo.
Okay, so why do you think? Now, look, we've heard over the last many months, at least on my channel, I've mentioned Ty Webb a few times. He's an RTC representative who works directly for David Miscavige. He's wreaked havoc in Clearwater. He's wreaked havoc in Los Angeles. He's been shipped off to South Africa for all sorts of reasons, but probably to get away from the American authorities. Why do you think Miscavige ships Ty Webb off to South Africa, but Julian Swartz continues to be right there in Hollywood on L. Ron Hubbard Way? Do you have any guesses?
Ty Webb is the person that is named on the federal child trafficking lawsuit of Valeska, because he literally essayed her back in there. So that's a good guess of, since he doesn't even want to be served on that, civil lawsuit, mind you, civil lawsuit, because the FDLE and the Clearwater PD have not a shred of a clue of any child trafficking taking place. So we only have a civil lawsuit right now. And Ty Webb was part of those Commodore's messengers back in the day when Valeska was there as a child, that literally essayed her, and everybody just, punished her for getting essayed. She was sent to ethics and for attacking a senior executive and blah, blah, blah. So, Ty Webb is also the son of Art Webb, a man who essayed me when he was my supervisor in those hotels. So there's all manner of things that are really rotten with that Webb family that did climb up all the way to the top of that pyramid scheme.
Yeah. That is probably an important distinction, that Julian himself, I seriously doubt, has ever personally committed essay on anyone. And I guess Miscavige probably has a bit of a problem of, there's only so many people you can trust. Like, even if they shipped Julian off to Australia or South Africa or the ship or whatever, who takes his place?
Well,
Because
that's the thing too, right, Aaron? Because everyone that takes a place in that org board of Scientology has to be actually vetted and prove every single week that they are that post. So if, you know, the type of depravity, the type of sadistic, complete no scruples, even within Scientology ranks, is not easy to find. Even with the depravity, even though they're all about the L. Ron Hubbard indicted convicted felon that he was, we're all about this. This convicted felon really has our back. This convicted felon really knows what in the hell he's talking about. But, you know, a lot of them would be posted on that post that Julian was posted and would be busted within a week. Why didn't you scream at that person? Why didn't you lock him up against their will? Why didn't you launder this felony for us? You are useless. You are pathetic. You are suppressive reasonable is what they call it. If you are not unhinged, depraved, and sick.
yeah. I don't know. Some people might find it interesting that you know, Julian's post, he's the chief public ethics officer in the Sea Org. They call it a master at arms or MAA, but that's just a Sea Org term for ethics officer. The chief public ethics officer at the advanced org in Los Angeles. So as we discussed, that's where public Scientologists go to do their upper confidential OT levels. Well, before you're allowed onto the OT levels, you have to do what's called OT eligibility. And this is an extremely thorough, tailor-made interrogation to find out all the nasty shit that you've been up to that has not been addressed up until now. And it's specifically Julian's job to take all these people who've divulged all sorts of horrible things and to handle them, to fix them so that they are fixed, handled, and are allowed to start the OT levels. That is why he's in this very particular, almost bottle position where all the nasty stuff at the highest levels bottlenecks right with Julian. And even if someone, you know, isn't right now trying to get onto their OT levels, but let's say they've finished OT levels in the past, if they get into trouble, they have to go see the ethics officer who deals with the people who are already OT. And so, and in spite of the fact that this is his job, Julian himself has never done the OT levels. I wonder if people find that to be interesting. And it's a weird thing in Scientology where even the Sea Org members and the staff members who deal with the very highest levels themselves very often haven't even done those levels. Julian Swartz has not done the OT levels.
Well, Aaron, it's just they don't give a shred of an F. I mean, honestly, the OT levels is such a hogwash of nothing, literally. And what you're saying, pointing out correctly, why in the literal hell is the so-called person in charge of everyone doing these programs that they really think are so amazing has not a shred of a clue what in the hell he's selling, right? And going back to your point, it's like he doesn't even know what he's selling, but he was put on that post since he was 13 years old because he showed himself to be depraved, unhinged, sadistic, narcissistic, and every other characteristic of what you would require to have that post filled. Because, you know, in Scientology, they call it put your hat on. So they really do make you become a pawn in their scheme. And nobody could care a shred of a, literally, they don't care if he's went up the OT levels, read the stupid, unhinged rants of an unindicted convicted felon. This just it doesn't even matter.
There's a little bit of irony in Julian being tasked with protecting Scientology from threats, considering part of Julian's own origin story is he was banished from Clearwater, Florida, banished from Flag, and sent away to Los Angeles in about 1999 or something, because he was considered to be a threat to the Flag land base because he has epilepsy, or he would have epileptic seizures. I guess that's the same thing. And I believe he was on that post that you mentioned earlier, senior CS MAA, when he had a seizure, fell down, knocked out his front teeth, and they're like, oh shit, this guy could die on us one day. This guy could fall down and hit his head and die. We can't have him here. He's a threat to the base. He's a threat to the security of the base. If he dies here, that's going to make us look bad. Get rid of him. He doesn't qualify to be here anymore. Banish him to Los Angeles. We don't care if he dies in LA. We just don't want him dying in Clearwater. This was after Lisa McPherson, of course. And so he himself, there's got to be a part of him that thinks he's not good enough. There's something wrong with him. There's something wrong with his case, with his whatever, that, I don't know, maybe on some level he feels like he's having to make up for that, to constantly show that he's worthy, that he's good enough, that he's dedicated enough. You know, I don't know. I just always, you know, every time I remember that he was literally banished from his home. That was his home. And they sent him away. Were you still at Flag when they sent him away?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
How widespread was that knowledge on the base?
So widespread. I mean, everything got announced every Thursday at staff meeting by Debbie Cook. Flaps and handlings every Thursday at 10 o'clock. We would at 9 or 10. I forget when the Thursday staff meeting was, you guys, but Debbie Cook would get up there on the stage of the graduation and go, HCO, flaps and handlings. So somebody that was in HCO that had something to do with Julian disappearing would have to stand up and tell everyone, this week we had the senior CSMAA fall down, break his teeth, create a lot of problems for us, but don't you worry about it. The handling is we sent them across state lines. So now we won't have a legal liability in our hands anymore. And, you know, that's how this culture worked, right? This was a culture of complicity. As long as we're all complicit, as long as we're all colluding, as long as we all know what felonies are being committed, then nobody gives a shred of an F, because we're all co-opted into and triangulated into all of this unthinkable, illegal stuff that, you know, again, probably the person that stood up that staff meeting to announce that Julian Swartz was missing or was going to be sent off was a minor, because most of the ethics officers were minors. Going back to Julian, they needed them to be molded like putty. It's very hard to get a 40-year-old man to do what Julian does. You have to start young. You have to start at 13 when they have not a shred of a clue, where they're just literally putty in your mouth or in your hand or whatever in the hell that is.
Hammers and tongues, putty in your mouth. I mean, this is we're all over the place today.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, one of the things that I'd like to ask the viewers for, you former Scientologists, under the radar Scientologists, I'd like to get as many stories, anecdotes as possible of other crimes that have been covered up. I guess because of this conversation, I'm going to say by Julian. Any of you out there who've had experiences with Julian where, you know, real honest to God crimes were reported and they were just covered up, handled. People were handled not to report to the authorities, not to pursue legal options. But honestly, such anecdotes and stories are valuable, even if it's not specifically relating to Julian. You know, this is the culture in Scientology. It's not like Julian's responsible for that culture. He's just the one currently enforcing it on L. Ron Hubbard way. But in every continent, like I don't even know who the chief public MAA is for the AOLA and AOSH ANZO or AOSH UK or AOSH EU or whatever. It's funny. We never hear from those. We never hear from those regions. We never hear from those AOs.
Well, it's true. I mean, it's a lot less, right? The concentration of people is mostly Florida and California, and the idea that they're so worldwide and everywhere is just not as big. But I mean, yeah, believe you me, like in South Africa, I was sent to South Africa later, not while I was in the Sea Org. I went there because Charmaine Roger found me a PC that she wanted me to audit, a really rich guy that had like marble mining or something like that. Very rich guy. Anyways, but yeah, in South Africa, you know, one of his partners was involved in CP, and this was all known, and he became an illegal PC. And then, I mean, this is just everywhere. This is what they do. This is what L. Ron Hubbard said to do. This is no one's deranged idea or deranged interpretation of a memo. that literally states incriminate, become complicit, get paid to become complicit, launder the felony, don't go to law school. Law school is stupid. Why in the hell does anybody care about law school anyways when we can do it all in a 2-week course inside a damn hotel?
Yeah, indeed. Indeed. Let's see. What else is there to this Julian conversation right now?
Well, I think that, Aaron, like the sheer size of this man, he was a very tall, intimidating AF man. You see from his photo, that's not literally, a picture can tell 1,000 words. That photo of Julian looks like a person that is not well. He looks literally psychotic AF. And if you can imagine him being given all the power in the world to terrorize, to literally not respect a shred of a boundary whenever he locks someone up in one of those ethics interviews. That's what we're calling out, because, just as much as the Jane Does that did deal with him were terrorized by him, like he was one of the reasons I ended up leaving Scientology, because he went and terrorized my then ex-wife and myself, because she was found to be posting on a blog, on an anti-Scientology blog. And Julian, the investigator that he was, tasked to find out who's posting these comments. We're talking like 8 or 9 or even probably a decade ago, right? Because they were very pressed. Back in the day, no one could say a single shred of a comment. So also for those under the radar, it's 2023. So stop pretending that you can't come forward. Stop pretending that you have a lot to lose. Stop pretending that you care about anything other than yourselves, and stop cutting the alliances. Like we just saw Antonio Ortega get posted today about the girl that came up with her name about this nannies from hell daycare that they were running. And she literally said, you know what, I'm going to put my name to this. So she's now named. She talked about all her disconnection story. She talked about all the horrible things that she had to do to try to save her dad and her parents, right? Because we're all in this idea that, yeah, we can get our parents out and we can do this and we can do that. Our parents are unindicted felons that have not been convicted a shred. They literally normalize abuse of minors at scale. If not, a whole bunch of collective of parents would have been so okay with what was done to all the minors, we would not be here. Aaron and I would not be here. His mom put Aaron into the courses. My mom put me into the courses. All of our parents were okay. They knew L. Ron Hubbard was a convicted, indicted felon. They decided to just run past that red flag. And you know what? He was convicted. He was indicted in France. Never mind, it wasn't here in the United States. But, even like Janice and Biddy Miscavige, they were literally abducted into the child trafficking scheme that L. Ron Hubbard was running on a ship, literally grabbing minors and throwing him in a ship as he was on the run from the authorities in France that convicted him in absentia for fraud. And he wasn't willing to do the 4 years of jail that he deserved to do there. And never mind that the American authorities have enshrined him now as a so-called American-bred god, that no court of the United States can have a shred of a critical thinking skill to figure out what in the hell is written in those memos that are dictating everything that Julian Swartz is doing today. He doesn't have a shred of thought for himself. He just goes, so the policy says lock him up for 10 hours until they admit to the felony. Great. So I have the power because my 2-week course inside a hotel is allowing me to do that.
Indeed. Well, hey, as more info comes forward about other things that Julian's been wrapped up in, let's do more videos about it. Because this is something that's not going away. I mean, this whole Julian thing is wrapped up in many of the lawsuits that are ongoing right now. Certainly, yeah. There's
Julian is
and
not
also the grand jury investigation into obstruction of justice is, you know,
in California, but where's the Florida? Where is the Florida one? As if they don't have worse versions of Julian in Florida, Aaron. As
yeah,
if there's not a whole matrix
we
of
need
people.
someone
Where is
who's
Antonio Barcenas Jr.?
I don't know who
Senior
that is,
dear
but
INR of the FSO.
yeah, I
Where
don't know where he
is
is. I don't know who he is.
Heather Hoff, senior INR at the FLB, that was literally teaching Julian how to do this? Heather
Yeah.
Hoff.
Yeah, but there needs to be someone who has a history, something worth suing over in the Clearwater jurisdiction, as has come up in, you know, with Jane Doe 1's lawsuit and Leah Remini's lawsuit in the California jurisdiction. Actually,
Yeah, but the question is, why doesn't it come up in Florida? Because it's not like they're doing everything worse there, unhinged and enabled by that judicial system as we speak.
I mean, I would just say
I
would just say how many hundreds or thousands of former Scientologists are there, and the only ones, you know, who else has brought? Only a handful of people have brought lawsuits, even in the Los Angeles jurisdiction. And that's the highest concentration of Scientologists in the world. So
Aaron,
I know. Why? I know they talk about how big the flag. I know they talk about how big the Flag Service organization is as an organization, but the truth is there aren't that many Scientologists in Clearwater, to be perfectly honest. Maybe 1,000, maybe
there's hundreds of them and thousands of them that go there every day, Aaron. So
yeah, I know
there's not a lack of people that are doing all of these criminal felonies enabled by the state.
I know, but if no one's going to come forward with a lawsuit, you know, I mean, it's one of the reasons I do videos about all of it, is so that there's at least information being put out. But
how come me and Sianja and Valeska have been the only ones that have gone to the Clearwater police? Literally no one else. So shout out to all the parents that have not taken it upon themselves to go to the Clearwater police and tell them what they were doing to their own kids. Shout out to you. Shout out to every single person that's going into getting those services, answering the question, have you committed a felony for which you have not been arrested, and decided, instead of going to the Clearwater police that's a block away, let me pay. Going back to the payment system, Aaron, let me pay to tell you about abusing my daughter. The interrogations that I did, that's what they were telling me. I'm doing this to my daughter. I did it to her here. I did it to her there. I wrote it all down. I video recorded. Debbie and Richard were watching. Julian was being told, oh yeah, go grab that public because this could really flap. So let's really ship that person to South Africa because, you know, we really have to be careful here. And they are consulting with all the 200 and plus attorneys that Leah already told us are on retainer, and nobody knows anything, and everyone's playing dumb. And that's really what the problem is here. It's not a problem of whether it's legal or illegal, or it can be done or it cannot be done. It's called playing dumb. At this point, there is no other excuse.
Yeah. Well, I'll say, you know, just like in the Danny Masterson trial, where there were women for whom Danny was not being criminally charged, who did come forward and testify that the same or similar things had been done to them. I think perhaps we need to send a message out to everyone in the Scientology world that even if you're not interested in bringing your own lawsuit, if you have been a party of, whether it's firsthand, secondhand, you know, third-hand experience here of crimes being covered up, it's worth coming forward, even if anonymously for now. You can reach me at growingupinscientology@gmail.com. Serge, is there a place people can reach you?
Yeah, Serge Del Mar at proton.me.
Yeah. And, you know, specify whether you want your information shared with the attorneys who are doing the trafficking case brought by Jane Doe 1, or of course, there's the fair game lawsuit from Leah, and there's the trafficking lawsuit from Jane Doe 1. The more information, the better, guys. I know not everybody wants to do a YouTube channel. Not everybody wants to appear on someone else's YouTube channel. Not everybody wants to come out from under the radar just yet. But the more information you guys inside the bubble can share with us, that we can share with the attorneys and potentially later with prosecutors, the more information, the better. And that's why it's worth talking about these things.
Well, and definitely, Aaron, I'm going to have some interviews coming up because since I started doing the YouTube channel, a lot of people that know me, a lot of minors specifically, because as you know, that's been my only thing that I care about. They've been reaching out to me, and we're going to be doing some interviews because this was systemic, institutionalized abuse of minors at scale. And the human trafficking, did you know that there was an international human trafficking investigator conference held in Clearwater just a few days ago by the FDLE, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, who really did take it upon themselves to call up every human trafficking investigator in the world and just really go to Clearwater to really have that conference for themselves. And gee, I wonder how much of the federal child trafficking lawsuit in Florida was taken up in that conference. Because as soon as I commented on the FDLE's page, and for all of you that want to do something about it, go to the FDLE page on Instagram, you guys, and ask them the questions. It's not like all of these departments of law enforcement don't have public Instagram accounts. We're not asking you to fly to Florida and waste a ton of time. No, literally, instead of picketing, literally go and ask questions of these public institutions that are supposed to be upholding laws that are anti-trafficking that we already have on the books. We don't need to write new laws. We don't need to come up with new ideas. We literally just need the laws that are on the books to be enforced. We just have a lack of enforcement. We don't have a lack of laws. So yeah, this human trafficking conference happening in Clearwater, everyone doesn't even know that is going on, and nobody sees the joke that is played on the kids that were trafficked in that city, such as myself, such as Aaron, such as every other second generation person that has a YouTube channel. And, you know, we're just supposed to laugh along with this whole joke that's being played at our expense, quite frankly.
All right, let's tackle a few super chats and we'll wrap it up. We have Sumaya. If Ashton Kutcher was lying in court, could it open the door for the conviction against the serial killer to be overturned? What in the literal hell, you guys? Well, that's between Ashton Kutcher and the LAPD and the prosecutors. You would think if he was lying in court and they let him lie in court and they knew he was lying in court that it would open the door. But you know, they're responsible for what they did, not us.
And it just speaks to his character, Samaya. Just that's what we would say. It just speaks to his character overall.
Yeah. Joni Cummings. Hey, Aaron, was watching a non-SPTV channel last night. The person mentioned your channel and how I super chatted you. Hi, Serge, you dear. Thank you, Joni. Okay. Scientology Money Project. Jeff Augustine says L. Ron Hubbard's pink legs policy demands and creates people like Julian Swartz, and crimes like the Chase Wave credit card fraud. RTC needs enforcers. Indeed.
Bingo.
Dave Bowen, Aaron, you should fill out an RTC report on Miscavige and his hypocrisy and lies. Yes, it would be hilarious if RTC was inundated with thousands of reports from non-Scientologists about the crimes David Miscavige has committed.
Well, literally, they want to find out about felonies, you guys. So maybe write up your report.
Let Dave know about all the felonies. Andrew Humphrey, someone should screenshot this before it's changed. I think that's referring to the RTC Reports website. It's been there for years and years and years. So it'll be on the Wayback Time Machine no matter what. Okay, Big Easy Livin'. What, if anything, do you know about Isaac Cappy? I've never heard that name before. Have you?
Me neither. I don't know.
All right. Okay, everybody. One last reminder. If you're not subscribed to Serge Del Mar, you can find him over at Serge Del Mar. And thanks for hanging out with us this afternoon. Thank you, as always, to everyone who watches until the very, very end. And we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not, subscribe right here.